I'm Joe Feeks, editor of Poultry Health Today, and with me today is Dr. Tim Cummings of Zoetis. And Tim, we're going to be talking about infectious bronchitis. Now, I understand that there's been a new variant that's been making the rounds on the poultry farms over the last couple of years. It's called Georgia 08.
Yep.
What's different about this variant than from some of the other IB variants that we've had?
Well, bronchitis is it's an RNA virus. It's one of those bugs that it mutates and spins off variants, and that's why bronchitis is a continuous problem to the broiler industry. When the variants develop, then they don't cross protect against the more common strains or the vaccine strains that we have. So that's what's happened with Georgia 08. It evolved. We didn't have adequate vaccine to protect against it well, and then it started spreading and causing us problems in the field.
And was it just a matter of not having a vaccine, or was there something about this particular variant that was particularly troubling to producers?
Yeah, I mean, again, because it's an RNA virus, they tend to mutate and develop new strains, and that's exactly what happened with this. It evolved in the field. The current vaccine strains that we had did not protect against it well at all. It was a totally unique virus that came and started causing problems in the field. So.
And specifically, what kind of problems?
Well, really where we started picking it up was at the processing plant.
Really?
You start to see a lot of air sac contaminations, very significant levels. When it initially began, there really wasn't a lot you saw in the field. There wasn't mortality, there wasn't respiratory signs or symptoms. But then the plant would start screaming about air sac contaminations, which is very costly to the industry, because you've gotten birds to that age and got them to the processing plant, and then you throw them away. So that really got a lot of people's attention.
Now, it's called Georgia 08, but it's not limited to Georgia?
No, that was where it was first identified. So it started causing a problem with a particular complex, and then it started to spread around to some other complexes, some other companies in other regions.
So now, this variant popped up pretty quickly. There was no vaccine. Walk me through the process of developing a vaccine for a variant such as this.
Well, and you use the term process, that's exactly what it is, very much a process. For a pharmaceutical company to produce a vaccine, it does take literally years. But during the meantime, because this was causing such a problem in the field, or at the processing plant primarily, one company actually took initiative and developed their own live vaccine. They made an autogenous vaccine themselves because it was causing such a problem for them. And it was very successful. It actually helped significantly. And other companies, as it spread and they began to recognize, hey, we've got Georgia 08 as well, they actually started using this autogenous vaccine, which would prove very beneficial. And they were using it because we didn't have a commercial vaccine developed yet.
So how is a commercial vaccine different from the autogenous that was being used successfully?
Well, the commercial vaccine, they're probably pretty related because the same seed stock was used for both, but they're different methodologies that a pharmaceutical company and regulations and rules, they have to prove safety, they have to prove efficacy. There's several hoops for them to jump through.
And it's being used throughout the poultry industry, or only in states where the variant has been identified?
It's just the region that Georgia 08's been identified in.
Okay.
And that's a good principle. You don't want to be using serotypes of vaccine that's not in your region if you don't have to.
Okay. And walk me through the protocol. How many vaccinations do you have to give, and when do you give them?
Well, and there's still some debate about that. I think most companies have used giving Georgia 08 at the hatchery. Some companies are boosting in the field, so they may give them twice. It just depends on how severe the problem is or how high a challenge you have in an area. For example, in Mississippi, where I spend a lot of my time, we've had Georgia 08 there. Most companies just used Georgia 08 in the hatchery. Like in North Alabama, I think a number of companies will give it at the hatchery, as well as boosting the field about 2 weeks with the Georgia 08 vaccine. And so it just depends upon how high a challenge that you have in the area, as well as are you having significant problems and the age of bird. If you're growing an older broiler, you may want to consider a couple of vaccinations as well. So,
okay. One final question. I mean, economics really drive this industry. How do we know that this vaccine is providing a return on investment? What can producers expect to see when they use it?
Well, our experience has been it really significantly shuts down the air sac condemnations at the plant.
The vaccine does?
Yes. It tremendously has an impact there. Is it perfect? No, but it definitely lowers the numbers down. And really, if you just got one flock with a high level of air sac contamination, it'll pay for a lot of Georgia 08 vaccines. So it's pretty easy to justify in my mind, and in most companies too. So most companies that have had problems are on Georgia 08 vaccine, and they believe that it's helped them.
Good to know. Thanks so much, Tim. I'm Joe Feeks, editor of Poultry Health Today, and we've been talking to Dr. Tim Cummings at Zoetis.